California Matters. Gavin Newsom's keeping it all in the family. Gavin Newsom will be the first Democrat in more than a century to succeed another Democrat as governor, and the succession also marks a big generational transition in California politics. A long, dominant geriatric quartet from the San Francisco Bay Area, not named Metallica. Nah, I'm just kidding. I love Metallica. Governor Jerry Brown, Senators Dianne Feinstein and Barbara Boxer, and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has been slowly ceding power to younger political strivers. Moreover, Newsom is succeeding someone who could be considered his quasi-uncle. Since his inauguration continues the decades-long saga of four San Francisco families intertwined by blood, by marriage, by money, by culture, and of course, by politics. The Browns, the Newsoms, the Pelosis, and the Gettys. The connections date back at least 80 years to when Jerry Brown's father, Pat Brown, and let's back it up a little bit so I can show you this. So here's the chart here, and here's Pat Brown, Jerry Brown. Pat Brown ran for San Francisco District Attorney, losing in 1939, but winning in 1943 with the help of his close friend and Gavin Newsom's grandfather, businessman William Newsom, which is right over here. Fast forward 2 decades, Governor Pat Brown's administration developed Squaw Valley for the 1960s Winter Olympics and afterward awarded a concession to operate it to William Newsom and his partner, John Pelosi. And let's see, there's William Newsom right there. And there's John Pelosi right there. One of the Pelosi sons, Paul, married Nancy D'Alessandro, who went into politics and has now reclaimed speakership of the House of Representatives. Another Pelosi son married William Newsom's daughter, Barbara. Until they divorced, that made Nancy Pelosi something like an aunt by marriage to Gavin Newsom. Nancy Pelosi's brother-in-law was Gavin Newsom's uncle. And on a quick side note here, the D'Alessandro family is a pretty prolific family too, right? Nancy Pelosi's, or I should say Nancy D'Alessandro's father was Thomas D'Alessandro, former Baltimore mayor and made man with the Lucchese family. He was a big-time gangster. He was part of Murder, Inc. We're talking about Frankie Carbo, Benny Trotta-Magliano, a lot of those knuckleheads that were all wrapped up with Murder, Inc. And if I'm remembering, forgive this is off the top of my head, his son, Thomas D'Alessandro III, at like 20 years old, he was charged with multiple rapes of girls who were about 10, 11, 12 years old. Now, from what I remember, I believe he was acquitted, but I do think he ended up being guilty of perjury. I don't remember how the story actually turned out. If those of you who have the information can maybe fill that in or whatever, it's kind of trivial and related to this, but you can see how deep this runs, and we've got some perverts in this family too. As a matter of fact, I even believe that Thomas D'Alessandro, Nancy Pelosi's father, actually believed his own son was guilty. It was pretty creepy. Let's move on. The Squaw Valley concession was controversial at the time and created something of a rupture between the two old friends. William Newsom wanted to make significant improvements to the ski complex, including a convention center, but Brown's Department of Parks and Recreation balked. Newsom and his son, an attorney also named William, held a series of contentious meetings with officials over the issue. An 8-page memo about those 1966 meetings from the department's director, Fred Jones, buried in the Pat Brown archives, describes the Newsoms as being embittered and the senior Newsom threatening to hurt the governor politically, as Brown ran for a third term that year against Ronald Reagan. Pat Brown's bid for a third term failed, and the Reagan administration later bought out the Newsom concession. But the Brown-Newsom connection continued as Brown's son, Jerry Moonbeam, reclaimed the governorship in 1974. He appointed the younger William Newsom, a personal friend and Gavin's father, to a Placer County judgeship in 1975 and 3 years later to the State Court of Appeal. Justice Newsom, who died a few weeks ago, had been an attorney for oil magnate J. Paul Getty, most famously delivering $3 million to Italian kidnappers of Getty's grandson in 1973. While serving on the appellate bench in the 1980s, he helped Getty's son, Gordon, secure a change in state trust law that allowed him to claim his share of a multi-heir trust. After Newsom retired from the bench in 1995, he became administrator of Gordon Getty's own trust, telling one interview, "I make my living working for Gordon Getty." Yeah, nice work if you can get it. The trust provided seed money for the Plump Jack chain of restaurants and wine shops that Newsom's son Gavin and Gordon Getty's son Billy developed, the first being in a Squaw Valley hotel. Gavin Newsom had been informally adopted by the Gettys after his parents' divorce, returning a similar favor that the Newsom family had done for a young Gordon Getty many years earlier. Newsom's Plump Jack business, named for an opera that Gordon Getty wrote, led to a career in San Francisco politics, a stint as mayor, the lieutenant governorship, and now to the governorship, succeeding his father's old friend. He's keeping it all in the extended family. So you can see it runs deep with knuckleheads.